Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will be seeing how to integrate our front end with our backend, and we will be finishing the login page and sign up page. So let's jump right into it. Before we make any further changes to our front end, there is a very important thing to be done in our backend. So open your backend. I've already opened it. As you can notice, we had written port as 3000, and you would also have noticed that the front end runs on 3000 port. So that is an issue, as two programs cannot be running on same port. We need to change the port. So for our backend, we'll keep it as 4000 and save it, and we'll keep our backend started so that we can only focus on front end and then how to make connection to our backend. So let's run it. As you know, it's deno run dash dash allow net dash dash allow env dash dash allow read dash dash allow write write dash dash allow plugin dash dash unstable if I can type unstable app.ts. Enter it and you can see the server is running on 4000. So this is all that we need to do for our backend. Once your backend is up, come to your front end, and the first thing that we want to change is the to do. We want to change this from to do to login. So we'll put it as login, save it, and we'll start the server. npm start. It'll start a development server. So by the time it starts, we'll open up a login page and see what all we have done already. So it has started and we can see that we have our login page. So we can see that we have two text fields and one button. All we need to do is create a function which will be called once the button is clicked. So how do we do that? The first thing that we want to do is we have several methods, but as it will be a simple one, I'll show you a simpler method in this case. So all we need to do is define an on click function which will take a function. This on click function will take a lambda. If you're not familiar with this expression, this is called lambda. This is basically creating a function. So as we have already seen in our backend that we have to create a async function for any network call. As this is also a network call, we need to create a async function so that we can retrieve the response from the server. So we make it as async like this. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to get what the user has input. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable, say username, which will be equal to, we have a function document dot get element by id. As we have already given an id, we can access this element directly. So the thing that I want to specifically tell here is that if you just put this id login password, that is how generally it works, but not in case of text input field, as they have a specific id for this. So how the id format goes is, first you have your text input field variable hyphen and then the id variable. I repeat, this is only for text input field. So now we get variable password equals to document dot get element by id. Same for this, and sorry, this is login username and this is login password. So the first thing that we want to do is console log them and see if we are getting the correct data. Username comma password. We save it, let it run, and let's open our inspect console log, type some gibberish and log in. So you can see we have our input fields. Now what we want is value. We want the value of the input field. So we can just write that by get that by typing dot value and save it. Let it refresh, and now if we type the gibberish, we'll get our gibberish back. So that's how it is done. Now we want to create a JSON object and send it to our backend. That is how we were handling it via Postman also. So to create a JSON, we don't need to do anything. We just declare a var variable, say login details equal to a JSON object, and the first thing will be username, and that will be the username, and then the second parameter will be password, which will be password. So we can just console log it and see if we are getting the correct data. Save it and let's see. Something. And yes, we are getting a JSON correctly. So now all we need to do is send this JSON across. So a very important thing is that if you there's a command called fetch. Okay, I'll just show you. So we create another variable response, as we'll get a response from the fetch. So we use fetch for any API request call. We use fetch. So I hope you remember the path is v1 slash API slash users slash login. To verify, we can go to our backend. We can see it is user, not users. Sorry, again, I did the same thing. And then if you open user router, so we open user router and we can see it slash login. So I think this URL is correct. And then we specify the method that we want to use it. Method, I think it's this way. Method, and then the method will be post for this case. And we need to specify headers. So it'll be headers. The header that we want to define is content type. Okay, we'll do that later. Let's just write a fetch request and I'll just show you how it works. So we'll send a body. Body will be nothing but our login details. Save it, and in sources, sorry, not in sources, in network, if we clear all these, if we now write some gibberish and login, you can see 404 not found. So the issue here is not in sources, but here. So you cannot post to this URL, and you can see this URL is not found. So the issue here is it is requesting to localhost 3000 this URL, but the URL contains localhost 4000 as we have already changed the backend port number. So that is the issue here. Sorry. So how do we clear it? So the thing is that we need to define a proxy. Where do we define a proxy? We define the proxy in package.json. So how do we define it? We say proxy, double quotes, proxy, and then the URL. The URL is nothing but http colon slash slash local host colon 4000. That is our uh, proxy to our backend. We need to close it and we need to start it again. So we'll run it now by saying npm start. Let it reload. By the time it reloads, we go back here and we add our headers. So headers colon, the first header that we want to is content type. Content uh, content type. As the data that we are sending from our side is a JSON, so we want to specify that in our headers. We'll say application/JSON. So the receiving end knows that the data that we are sending is JSON format. So after that, we'll do JSON dot stringify, and we'll stringify this because we cannot send a JSON, but we can send the JSON as a string and then define that the data that we are sending is not a string, rather it's a JSON. So deal it as a JSON. So the backend will automatically, or any other web service will automatically convert the string into that JSON. We save it, and let's see what happens this time. Not this. Here, if I type something and we see nothing happens, it's saying 404 again. So we have received 404, which is correct, as this user doesn't exist in our database. So how do we verify that? You remember that we are sending a message for that particular response. So for 404, we had user invalid. So if we go back, first we need to put await here as it's a asynchronous request. So until unless it awaits, the response won't have anything other than the promise. Then we'll console log the text that we are getting from the response. Again, that will be an await function. So res.text and save it. Let it rerun. Now again gibberish, and you can see that we are getting that message user invalid. So that means we have connected our backend. Now all we need to do is we need to specify the error cases. So first of all, we'll take care of res.status. First of all, we'll log it. Let's log and see what the status it's returning. Console.log res.status. Save it. Let it rerun again something. So it's returning 404. So all we need to do is say if res.status is equal to, the first is we'll check if it is 404. Then we'll put up a toaster. So how do we put up a toaster? For that, all we need to do is go to uh, the Evergreen website, open browse components, and here we have toaster. Yep, toaster. So they have an inbuilt toaster. All we need to do is say toaster.notify. So if we click on this button, something like this will come up on top. So we'll put this, so you can say it is notify, success, and warning. So let's use this and say toaster. I hope it imported. Yep, it imported toaster dot. So it's an error. So we'll say warning, and we'll say there's one more which we want to use rather than this. It is duration. It's based on duration. Yeah, 10 seconds. So we'll use this. Copy this, remove this, paste it here, and we'll say warning, and we'll say our warning will be username in, or rather we'll just show what the uh, status returned. So we'll say await res dot text. So that's what we'll do, and we'll put the duration as 5 seconds. Save it, and let's see what happens if you put gibberish. Now you can see it's user invalid, and after 5 seconds it will go away, or you can click the cross button to make it go away. It should go away in 5 seconds. Yep, it went away. So now this was 404. It's not a warning exactly, it's danger. No, not this. Danger. Let's save it and let's put something. Yep, user invalid. The other one will be else if it is not 404, it will be 401. which means user is not authorized. That means password is invalid. Not this. I just want to copy this. Again, let's just put what the text we get, and we know Johnny user is a valid user. Johnny user is a valid user, but we'll give the gibberish password. And here you can see password invalid is what we have got. And you can see it's 401. Let's close this as we don't need that anymore. Now, if else if it's nothing, and the last thing that we have is res.status is equal to 200. So in that case, let's just put a toaster right now. Let's see what will happen. So our valid user is Johnny user and password is password. Let's log in and you can see logged in and we get the jot. Handling of jot will be done in a separate tutorial, not in this one. This is just to show how to connect to backend. So let's close it. That means it's logged in. So one thing that we want to do here is, okay, let's just leave it right now. We'll do that later when we are putting routes. Right now we haven't put routes. So I think user is good. One more thing is that we need to put checks. We can't be sending null data. So the check will be put here for all of the data and then the data will be sent. So my if contains if username is equal, not undefined, username dot length uh, or yeah, we just say length is equal to 0 or is not equal to 0, actually is not equal to 0, or password dot length is not equal to 0, that means they are not null, then we are ready to do all this. Else we'll put up a toaster. This will be a warning toaster. So poster will be warning and save it. Let's hope it works. Nope. Text of okay. So this result is not here. The text we need to define. The text will be please enter all the details. Save it and log in. Yes, we get it. So our validation has been done. The same thing, exact same thing needs to be done for sign up. In the only difference is the API path will change and the number of parameters will change. So if you open sign up, you can see we have a button similar to that, but we won't do it in the same way. I think the tutorial is getting long, so we'll see that in the next part of the tutorial. For now, because we need to, in that part, we'll see how to actually handle changes in a function. Sorry, not in a function, changes in the input text field. Rather than handling them in the submit function, we can handle them directly during the person typing. So that is one thing that we'll be checking in the sign up part. Login, I didn't want to do it because only two fields are there, but for sign up, we require, because the data that we are sending for a user cannot be incorrect, because the login is something that won't harm our database, because even if the data is incorrect, the user won't be able to log in. As you saw, we have our checks. So I think that's it for this video. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any doubts, put them in the comment box below. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.